Yeah, so most of these are kind of bring a product to market, but in most of the cases, the companies already have some kind of prototype in place, and so it's looking at the concept at a prototype stage and then investing in the company at that stage.
Gotcha. And so I'm sure that in that early stage there are a lot of quote-unquote failures. Give me an example of a really good failure.
Really good failure. So first, I'll actually step back and kind of say like what we're really calling a failure here is not always a failure. A failure to me is something that's kind of final. It means you have no hope of recovery. You're dead, right? So that's kind of like a spectacular flame out. But in most cases, companies, or at least the companies that I've worked with, they haven't had any where they've been like a spectacular flame out, but there have been cases in which the companies have kind of built a product and then they've seen that the product is not really getting as much traction as they wanted, and then they've had to iterate and kind of figure out the right product market fit for them and for that company. So those are probably more common, and kind of the spectacular flame outs or irreversible mistakes are probably less common. So.
And do you find that you're working with people who are serial entrepreneurs, or is this like this is their baby and this is their one thing that they're passionate about?
So in most cases, the founders that I work with happen to be first-time entrepreneurs. And I actually like that in a lot of ways because to me it's kind of it's starting with a clean slate. You're typically starting with new technologies as well, and sometimes you're also starting out in new markets. So I actually like working with first-time founders because they're more open to learning and kind of and being more free about experimenting with the product and the market that they're actually playing with. So for me, it's mostly they're kind of first-time founders. I forgot the other part of your question though.
Oh, it was whether it was people who are emotionally attached. It sounds like for a first-time founder that would be the case. They have something they care about.
No, so they're typically something that they're passionate about, and that's kind of what sparks the idea in terms of what they're doing for their company. But there's a fine line between being passionate and being obsessive. And I think founders need to be passionate about it, but not obsessive, because obsessive would mean that they're not going to pivot and they're not going to actually change what they're actually doing. So they have to be willing to kind of understand that, oh, here's what's working, here's what's not working, and kind of have that meta level ability to step back and look at what they're doing and see if it works or if it doesn't work.
And so, with the sort of seed level, do you tend to follow up with other rounds, or is it expected that from that initial investment they'll develop some kind of scale?
So for K9, the model is very much to follow on in the companies in their future rounds as well. But I'll say that with the caveat that I also look for companies that are very capital efficient. So if a company can do a seed round of financing and not need another round, that's great. I'd be more than happy to actually work with that type of a company. But in more cases than not, the companies do end up needing more capital, and when they do need more capital, then K9 kind of participates in those rounds as well.
How do you arrive at a valuation for such an early stage thing that's just basically an idea?
Honestly, there is no clear metric. Valuations, the only clear metric that works is if you create a market, the market decides the valuation. So if you have lots of people competing over a deal, then that will create an implicit valuation for the company. But in most other cases, there isn't really any clear idea on how to set the valuation for the company. So it's kind of what the market will bear is what the valuation for the company is. If you have investors running after you to invest money in your company, then you can command a much higher valuation. But if nobody wants to invest in you, your valuation is zero.
So for a while, the venture world was a bit frothy, and then after sort of the economic rebalance, things dried up. What is the market like right now?
I would say it's very frothy right now. At least at the seed or the angel stage, I would say things are very frothy. And I would expect that to kind of come back down to normal soon. I'm guessing it goes in cycles, and it's kind of been in the doldrums, and now it's kind of frothy, and so it should come back down again at some point.
What sorts of opportunities are you excited about?
So I look for companies that are doing either core new technology or they're creating a whole new market. Right? So those are the two different angles that I look at when I'm looking at what I want to invest in. And when it comes to like core new technology, I'll give you some examples of some of the ones that I've done. I have a company that's building a new type of digital camera. It's a camera that'll let you change the focus after you've taken the picture. Right? So it's radically and fundamentally new technology. Likewise, I have another company that's doing high throughput genome sequence analysis. Right? So again, kind of core technology behind that company. And on the new market side, I have companies like Crowdflower, which are creating a new market for microtasks and basically creating a labor on demand market for doing microtasks, which humans can do very easily, but computers can't. So that's kind of my philosophy, is to look for either core new technology or something that's in a brand new market.
One of the great things about this conference is that it demystifies failure, and we talk about it and we get a better understanding of what real failure is. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs who are maybe afraid of failure?
If you're afraid of failure, you can't be an entrepreneur. So if you're afraid of failing, then you're never going to get out of the gate. Entrepreneurship is about basically trying different things, and it's not so much as failing. As I said, failure still has that connotation of a very final, it's the end of the world type of scenario to it. But most entrepreneurs need to be willing to try something and iterate, learn from it, and move on to what actually works. So the best advice I can give to an entrepreneur is go try it.